So if you look at how many people just a little bit that have a double president. They also got 50 detectives. We're all gathered here today.
I was late or something.
We'll put you on camera.
I know, that's what I
We all
love.
noticed our clerk is in a suit.
That's actually newsworthy. That's newsworthy.
I said that if you want to.
I thought maybe you retired.
But it shows people are happy with the office, you know, what they're doing.
Minors take care of this. Yeah, some there now, like with family. Yeah. I don't know. I'm assuming that's kind of what you said. That's more cases. Yeah, we do that. Worded things. You don't, but
I heard you were saying
Absolutely, I can say your choice.
yeah. Well, whatever, it'll work out. I'm not. Oh, it will. I'm not. It'll work out. Yeah. So yeah. It does. Like circles, and you feel we did too. Ari's been right. That's exactly They may be the one collecting this. They're fantastic to work
He's starting just to get in this guy's.
the dynamic of the agency is much larger, you know, and ours is, using our laws and things like how to correct and our but that's what I would want anyway. So see how the colors the rules change. Good. He's written books and stuff. He's fantastic. You can't beat him. And now that's powerful. Generation. Yeah, absolutely. There's still contracts.
It shows.
I could be wrong. Hey, Chuck. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes. And that Chuck Warner were actually on crime scenes. Yes, I remember that. That's correct. Yes.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I didn't know.
That's I'm not going to take that on books. What he did do really well. Documented the shit out of the house. Yes, it was like minute for minute. Yes, it's progress. Yes, now down. Not anymore. Not since he was here, but I haven't been into the criminal. They built that whole new. They built that whole new area of where you look down like TV.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
She told me about that. I didn't know you set you up for that.
They didn't let me in it. It's bad.
Yeah.
But the new one, you don't even know. I guess the new one. They don't want to.
Yes.
I've got some. Like, what's wrong? They don't let you see Why are you asking me? I'm not saying that. I ain't allowed to present anything.
It's much better than
Yeah, that's all true. Hey, but you can't. It's not that. It's like you're asking the wrong person for approval about something. Like I can't approve anything. Because that's the way quarter. That's an answer.
Well, it'd be fair to say a multi-agency year-long investigation. Years long. You know, months. It's like gestation for all. Yeah, this is,
So I was in April, March or April of last year has been a while. The familial, that's when we started doing. I think
before that,
It was going on before that because BCI had it doing.
That's not his guy that writes Charles.
It's Charles.
So let's figure out that the day that
Even though we might have a nice
you
new
took this
video,
case into your arms, when you get some time, then I can update it, if you'd like to say
for a
anything.
while, now I'll get that down.
Obviously, it's
I would have,
a 31-year long
I would
investigation.
have to go back and
I
look
came on right in.
at when we did our first, because they took so long, I would have to go back and see the first time that I touched it. But Chuck had dabbled in it, all, Boso dabbled in this, because Boso went down.
So they're gonna cover this, they're gonna cover the big legs and
That was
this morning. This whole party moved to sheriff about where it's going to
There's no more fun than being called at home on your own side.
I would like to sit you,
But we were always short.
we're still here. I'd like to sit Arnold, Tina, Detective's Cat, and do a little interview with you guys about, you know, is someone handled a 31-year-old case file, they think, come on, you know.
I mean, that's the whole thing, it's easier to follow.
We haven't solved it in 31 years. That's the great thing about bringing a fresh mind and fresh pair of eyes to a case, whatever. I would like to do an in-depth of how we solve a 31-year-old case and do a story first. I don't want to show you if there's anything violation of constitution.
We follow up in there.
It will be
Now back then.
Yeah, you can't do something, but I can't, but I don't like that, right? Something like that.
We're gonna have 42, I think, in our classes.
The information that just keeps,
That's good.
that's how I did that. You know what I mean? They said do it trash all the time. I know it's disgusting.
We began 2 years ago to hire additional deputies. And as of today, we've gained negative. We haven't gained any at all. Jesus.
Once I Columbus, the drop was 5. It's been 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. 200, close to 200, what we keep lower than what they should be. Make that up.
Guys, I apologize for the delay. It is, I swear it's more than just us. It's a little stuff that came up at work.
You know, I get a little frustrated. That's why I was giving it to
No, and I agree, especially if you post because
schedule edge on those stages. And I'm talking to our HR papers or something like that. So, hey, how many people do you have to at 18?
when I finish, it's like,
You're right. I'm telling you. You guys are getting warm, we'll go get rain.
I'm so sorry. One trying to just see one in your red. You guys can all sit here, that way you can all be together. Did I just get your shot? Okay. Sorry. Oh, God. Only one on that. It's easier for me to read. Sorry about that.
Are we going anybody else to do?
I believe everyone's here
I think
now.
we're all here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, Superintendent Warbitzer.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Superintendent Joe Morbitzer with the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, part of the Attorney General's Office for the state of Ohio. First of all, let me say our condolences to family members and thank you for being here today. This just shows you what we can do when law enforcement works together. On a state, county, local platform, we can all work together to solve crimes like these crimes that have occurred that we're here for today. I can't say enough about the team at BCI and what they've done with cold cases. The AGO had asked us to stand up a cold case unit about 2 years ago, and we polled staff to ask what would be the best way to do that. And they suggested an interdisciplinary team representing all the units from BCI. And unfortunately, today they've been very successful with identifying victims and perpetrators of crimes that have happened well into the past, as with the case today. So again, I can't say enough for the BCI team. Thank you very much for all that you guys do. I know I can speak on behalf of the victims and thank you and tell you how much we appreciate what you do. We were contacted by the Sheriff's Office and we're working with them on several cases, but this was one. And we sat down with the executive staff and our executive staff, and we came up with several cases to look at as far as cold case investigation. When we did that, this was one that stood out. And with the advancement of technology today and DNA advancements, we were able to develop some leads on this case and finally trace that back to a perpetrator. And that's why we're here today, to bring some peace and some closure to the family. While it's not what we wanted or could have possibly wanted at the end result, it does give you some peace of mind to know that we found the person responsible. I know I can speak on behalf of all law enforcement in saying that that is what we're here to do, to assist all victims in the state of Ohio. The Attorney General has made that a priority on his list, and that's to assist and support local law enforcement in the state of Ohio in any way that we can. And we will do that every time we're requested. So again, on behalf of the Attorney General and our office at BCI, I thank local law enforcement and Sheriff for your staff and the great job that they have done on the investigative part of this. Without any further delay, I would like to introduce Sheriff Dallas Baldwin.
Thanks, Thanks, Superintendent. Appreciate it. And thank you for showing up today for this news conference. To the families, our condolences. Wish we didn't have to be here. But I'm proud to say that this case, even though it's over 30 years old, has been solved through the collaborative effort of BCI and our detectives and other detectives working the case. Today is a great example of you never give up. 30 years ago when they processed the crime scene, they didn't know what the advances would be in technology. But diligent work, careful collection of evidence, and now with the advances in DNA and familial DNA, it shows that we can solve crimes together. Very proud of the detectives that work in the Sheriff's Office and the investigators at BCI, because working together, they put this case. This began with detectives that don't work here any longer. They've long retired. But the new detectives have taken over the case and ran with it. And it just shows that we don't give up. We're there for the families. We're there to serve the community. Can't imagine what it is for a family to go for 30 plus years not knowing what happened to a loved one. Today, at least, we can bring some closure to that. And we'll continue doing that. As Superintendent mentioned, there are other cases we're working on, and we'll continue to do that. But again, I just want to express my thanks to BCI, to the state, to the Attorney General, to the other law enforcement agencies, and our own detectives. I'm very proud of them that they don't give up, they continue the work, and I'm very, very proud of them. I would like to introduce my Chief of Investigations, Rick Minard, to maybe say a few words. He supervises the unit that actually, the detectives that worked on the case. And Rick, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Superintendent. Yeah, this is a good day. So by now you know that we made an arrest on Friday, and then chose this day. And why was there a delay? Well, the delay was that we wanted to make sure that the people who were affected most by this case could be here today, and that they learn the news, learn the details of where we are, the process, and what that will look like going forward from us. And so that was the delay from Friday to today. And so make sure that the families knew what was going on. That's the priority, because we're here today because of them. Their strength and perseverance over 30 plus years. I mean, celebrate the great work here, but it's really about them and their strength. And so I don't really have a lot really to say other than just my thanks to the folks that worked on this case from our office. Superintendent, you got an amazing staff. Many of them are in this room, and I feel like you guys should be up here. You guys should be up here being celebrated for your tremendous work. So I suspect you guys probably have questions. So.
Rick, do you mind just briefly walking us through the case?
Yeah, and so back in 1991, June of 1991, I think it was June 3rd, Alma Lake was found murdered. She was sexually assaulted, murdered by strangulation. And so obviously evidence was collected from there. There was a similar case that happened a couple days later. You guys have read the charging documents, and so you kind of get a picture of what happened here. Luckily, person survived that assault, and honestly wouldn't be staying here today if it weren't for her contribution. As you know, there was a break-in time. It's 5 years before Michelle Dawson was found murdered, and that was in Licking County. The case is being in 2 different counties, investigated by 2 different agencies, obviously presents a challenge in terms of connecting those dots. Remember, this is back in 1991. We work great today, but we weren't as good as back then as we are today. And so, working with BCI, they're folks that do the familial DNA, the genealogy, and I mean, it's fascinating work. It really is. It's the stuff that all the TV shows are made out of. I mean, it really is. That's what everybody has a thirst about. And so, yeah, they just, man, talk about tenacious. Their staff, our staff. One of the challenges of this case was that Mr. Edwards' DNA was not in the national database, or at least not identifiable. And so that's where the familial DNA and so forth, and connecting those dots and the hours and hours of work that goes into that, was able to start to identify a profile. But then detectives, not only ours, but Licking County, you guys got the charging documents. Licking County went out, did some covert work to collect a profile that could then be analyzed by BCI and confirm what we thought we had, and that was done. And so all of that culminated into Friday's arrest. And so it doesn't stop here. I mean, this is a day that we're celebrating. We're happy to bring good news to the families. We're not done. We're not done. Clearly, from what you guys have read, he had a reckless, violent past in that era of his life. And so, it's not unreasonable to believe that he may be responsible for other cases. And so, if there are other counties within Ohio or other states that he may have lived in who have cases that they think may be similar in nature, I would hope that they would reach out to us, BCI. And so hopefully we could bring closure to more victims. Does that answer your question? Good.
You
Yes, sir.
mentioned the national database, by the way. Is that
CODIS,
being-
yep.
Is that being continually updated? And if it is?
It is, and that's scientific stuff that I'm certainly not qualified to speak to, so, Joe or one of your staff want to speak to
Question again?
CODIS.
Updating CODIS.
Come on up here.
Updates?
Come on up here. Come on up here.
How often is it?
She's one of the stars of the show. Come on up here.
So the CODIS database is a national database that the FBI runs, and we all add new convicted offenders and arrestees on a daily basis. So anytime somebody's convicted of a violent or a felony offense in the state of Ohio or arrested of a felony offense in Ohio, their DNA sample goes in. So in Ohio, we have about 800,000 offenders, and I think nationwide, it's over 14 million offenders and arrestees. So, and everything's searched each night. So every time a crime scene DNA profile is added to the database, it's searched every night at the state and national level. So,
If you wouldn't mind providing your name as well.
it's Diane Garris.
Rick, I have to ask, a lot of these cold cases are very difficult, especially as time passes, witnesses' memories fade. To be able to come to this point, what does it mean to you, to your team, and to the families involved?
You know what, I'm actually glad you asked that question. I'm asked oftentimes, you know, like about these investigations, and clearly I've had the privilege to be the chief over the criminal investigations division for 9 years, and so I've had a blessed career. I've got to do a lot of exciting things, SWAT teams and all kinds of stuff, patrol and all that kind of stuff, but investigations is really where my passion, my heart is, and so working a death investigation, and I know there are cops out there that will dispute this, but working a death investigation is by far the most challenging thing you do in law enforcement, but it is by far the most rewarding thing that you do in law enforcement. And so, yeah, these cases with 30 years old, you know, evidence, you know, is always an issue. Another issue is people aren't around. There's not detectives or witnesses to re-interview. And so you got to find people who can testify to pieces of evidence and things like that. So yeah, these cases are extremely difficult. As time goes on, they get more and more difficult to solve. And so, yeah, it just being here today to give these families hopefully some closure. It's not over. You know, we're gonna have a trial and all that kind of stuff. And so, but just to be here to finally put handcuffs on somebody that's responsible for the loss of life, that's a good feeling.
But I would imagine after that long, it's hard not to give up hope when 30 years pass that you'll ever get to this point.
I can't even imagine what they have gone through. I had an opportunity to speak to some of the family members before we walked in here. As you know, we got started a little bit late. And I expressed to them just how proud I am of them, their strength, sticking with it, continue to have hope that we would come to a day like this. And so, yeah, I mean, this is, again, we're here because of them. That's why we do this work.
How large of a team worked on this case? And when you say familial evidence, was a genealogical database used, such as Ancestry.com or something like that?
Well, you asked like 3 questions there, and I'm not qualified to answer some of them. So, how long do we work on it?
No, how large of a team worked on the case?
From our office, there's Sergeant Mickey Casper. Before his current role, he was assigned cold case. Chuck Clark, he has a different assignment now. Chuck was a long-time cold case detective as well. And so even though these guys took different assignments, they continued to work on this case. They continued to come and say, hey, Chief, like I got responsibilities over here, but I got to continue working on this case. And so I know how important it is to them. So absolutely, I allowed them. So from our office, that's at least 2. And then Roger is one of the supervisors. Can't say enough about Roger. And so Roger, if you don't mind, come up here and you talk about your team.
So my name's Roger Davis. I'm the special agent in charge over investigations at BCI. And I can't second enough our condolences and our feelings for the families. That's truly what makes our team work from all aspects, from local, state, federal, any agency that works with us or we work together with, is is that vested interest by all of our personnel involved. And it's looking for that for each of you as the families. We want to find those answers. From our side, what we look at from cold cases, as Superintendent Morbitzer stated, we have a multidisciplinary approach. So we utilize personnel from our laboratory, from our criminal intelligence unit, and our investigations unit. From investigations, that could be crime scene, it could be cyber, it could be crimes against children, it could be environmental, any resources that we can. And with that, what we do, we sit down, with Chuck Clark, with Mickey Casper, with Chief Minor, and go through these case files with Licking County. We pull in all the resources we can. And we have so many different ideas and perspectives, whether it's from our laboratory or DNA side, from advancements in CODIS and familial or genealogy, from our criminal intelligence side who are using social media or any technology possible in these cases. And we look at that as a team, what ideas, what perspectives are there that we can look at from not only a forensic side, but also that data-driven side. So we want to leave, and I'll quote Kristen Slaper, our DNA lab manager, like, we want to look at every jigsaw puzzle or every jigsaw piece in this puzzle. And we want to find the answers to that puzzle. But a lot of times this jigsaw puzzle may be like a used jigsaw. So first we've got to identify are all the pieces there, and then we have to look at, can we put them all back together? So from our side, we had a team of at least 10 people. We have Diane Garris from the familial DNA aspect, Lori Braunschweiger, Dana Forney, and Lisa Savage from the criminal intelligence unit, Kristen Slaper, who is the DNA lab manager, and she had numerous analysts working for her, as we were reviewing and looking over the evidence.
Roger, maybe this is a question for you or Joe, I don't know, but how many of these cases have you guys been able to solve or connect the dots in the last 2 years since this unit has been set up, and how many more are you guys maybe close on?
So, that's kind of a twofold question. We have had some success in probably about 25 or 26 cases that we have brought to a prosecutorial standpoint. We currently, are still involved on a multitude of levels on numerous cases. We are hopeful. Obviously, there's other cases we have that are closed, and as Chief Minor said, a lot of these cases take times, and that's part of it. As this team, as you talked about, does anyone ever get discouraged? Our team aspect prevents that, because even say for one day I may feel discouraged about something, the rest of the team there is there to pick me up, or vice versa. So, we have other cases, but as Chief said, we're not finished with this case either. We want to find answers for as many people as possible.
Are you currently looking at potential other cases involved with this gentleman?
Without going into details, we're going to leave no stone unturned with the suspect that was arrested for this case, and whether that's, previous cases he's involved in that may be within the statute of limitations or may not be, we're going to, vet out everything that this individual has been involved in. I don't know if I answered all your questions. All right. Anything?
One of the issues that we've run into, and Attorney General Yost has taken on with full steam, is the statute of limitations on sexual abuse and rape. And going to the legislature and asking for a different sentencing guideline. Right now, unfortunately, on some of the rape victims we look at on these cold cases, the statute of limitations had run out. The same with the rape kits, with the Rape Kit Initiative. We did resolve a lot of those cases, but again, unfortunately, the statute of limitations had run out on some of the violators. So that's one thing that Attorney General Yost has taken on and is really working hard with the legislature on to improve that for the victims and for the rule of law.
If that probably will conclude the news conference if there's no more questions. I would like to, and you made a comment, I think, Lacey, about, memory and how long it's been and all that, and which is important. But, love never fades for a family member that becomes a victim of crime. You know, and that's why we do this. You know, you keep hoping that something will open down the road, and it does. The advances in technology and DNA. And these investigators go back continually and they look for that one little avenue that might open something up. And that's why they do it. They get a little discouraged, but they keep that drive and they just keep it going. And just proud to say that that worked out for today. Again, condolences to the family. Very, very sorry. But thank you all for coming.
One last thing, I had an opportunity to speak to the family before we got started with this, and I think there's just a lot of emotions today, and so it is my understanding that the family needs some time, some space to digest this, so they don't necessarily want to be interviewed today, not saying that won't happen later, but they got a lot to digest, and so again, this day's about them, so I would ask that you respect that, if you don't mind. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah.